Let's stay in soccer, though. Let's talk about international soccer. This is something a conversation that gets had all the time. We had Robbie Mustoe, who calls the games on NBC in the Premier League. We talked about this, and we said the issue with the Glazers, in particular, who own Manchester United, and obviously own teams in the U.S., the fans hate him, and them, I should say. They hate the family.
Who do the fans like?
Yeah, that's a great point, but definitely not the Glazers.
Okay.
They're not even on the list.
The fact that we hear their names so often means that they are disliked more than other owners in the league.
One of the big reasons they're hated is because of the lack of footballing decisions made. They put a banker in as that director of football. Obviously, that doesn't work out. He's a money guy. He's great with sponsors. Doesn't know how to make decisions for the players on the pitch. On the club. Yeah, the club level stuff. But the big issue also is that there's something in business, and you know what this is, where the amount of debt you're willing to carry raises the value of your business. If you are able to carry X amount of debt, that means that banks trust you, so that means the value of your business has grown. That seems the game be the game they're playing. They maximize the amount of loans they could take, and they took all that as almost profit for themselves, or I should say they took that as income
for other
for themselves.
business interests.
Sure, for other business interests. But now the fans are upset that the club is over-leveraged.
Why are fans upset about that?
Because it doesn't.
Because they're not winning?
No, in a sport like soccer, it doesn't allow you, or football in the Premier League, it doesn't allow you to make big purchases. It doesn't allow you to buy expensive players. It doesn't allow you to be as fluid in the market. This is their belief.
Right. But
Okay.
it's all about winning, isn't it?
It's all about
if
winning.
Man U were winning, would people still hate the Glazers?
Not at all.
When they were winning, they hated them still.
So this is my problem. This is my issue. This is why I don't pay attention to fans and what they think about me or about owners, because by definition, we're not going to be liked. A president of a team it's not a popularity contest. So I sorry to interrupt you, but the Glazers,
not at all.
They're winning, they're not winning, they borrow money, they take money, they're rich, they're not rich. I always thought that fans at the end of the day wanted to care about the results on the pitch. And it turns out in the Premier League, it wasn't always the case. And I went to Liverpool and they were calling for Tom Hicks's head. They were doing parades to get rid of Tom Hicks. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember those. Yeah, no.
Do you remember the name Tom Hicks?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
used to own Liverpool.
Now it's Fenway Sports Group.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now it's John Henry.
Yeah.
And Tom Hicks owned the Texas Rangers and then bought Liverpool. And he was so unpopular in Liverpool. Why? Because their view was we could be doing better than we are. That's the fans' view always. We can be better than we are now. The Glazers are saying we're making money, we're building the value of the asset, and we win plenty. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Look, Manchester United just lost in Champions League, and
they got booted from Europe.
So fans are absolutely livid because there's something, kind of what you were saying before, the emotional tie to the team and to almost like their own self-esteem. Like if the team fails, I fail as a person as well for supporting them, you know? And even earlier on, you mentioned fans, you mentioned customers in soccer.
That's like a slur.
This is a slur. You can't call fans customers almost at all.
They're supporters.
They're supporters. And I know from the business side, of course, that word has to be used, but there's something that is so much more, I think, tribal in England.
Well, they feel
and
like
in soccer.
Their dollar isn't saying I'm going to go get entertainment. That's a customer. A supporter saying I'm giving money towards the club to keep the club alive, to keep the club winning, to keep the club going forward.
I laughed, and this is really going to be funny, in my mind at least, when Chelsea was for sale. All of these Americans were trying to buy it. Remember, Todd Bowley ended up with it.
Yeah.
But the Ricketts family was a bidder.
Yep.
And everyone was jumping all over themselves, these Americans who owned other teams, to fly over and meet with supporters. And they would take the microphone and say, I'm committed to following through and having meetings with all of you supporters. Meanwhile, in the background, their toes are crossed, their fingers are crossed, and they're going like that.
Yeah.
They could give a flying rat's ass. But they felt as though that's what they had to do in order to be the chosen buyer. Do you remember that's what it was?
Yeah, of course.
Is Todd Bowley, does he spend his days meeting with supporters?
No,
he does
It's
not.
a joke. No one was ever going to do that. So I appreciate that they want to be called supporters. That's adorable. They're customers. And the owners, and I'm sorry to tell you.
No, dude, you dropping
But
balls.
this is how it is. I'm sorry. But I'm right.
Can you view it from the fans' perspective that you've over leveraged the club too heavily in debt? It makes it dangerous. It makes it, sort of tentative. Can you see that viewpoint?
Are you not in the market for players who you would normally be in the market for because the leverage is so high because of financial fair play? Are there players who have not gone to Man U? Forget the football decisions. I'm talking about business, where a player was not affordable because of the amount of leverage.
Maybe you can't blame the leverage, but you could say they weren't in the market for, say, a Jude Bellingham, who recently also said no to Liverpool and went to Real Madrid. You could say,
what was his reason for that? Would you guess?
Probably the regalness of Real Madrid. The
So
history
not
of
the
winning.
money, not the package.
He got a significant. amount.
I mean, it's possible that was a factor, but who could really
I guess
say?
I'm
He never
cynical,
really said.
but it's
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
strange in the world of soccer. You're not just competing with other teams in the Premier League. You're competing with Saudi Arabia. You're competing with
world, yeah.
Serie A and all the other leagues. And I always found that to be strange because in Major League Baseball, I'm not competing with the independent leagues. I'm not competing with the Korean League, the Japanese league. I'm not competing with anybody except the other 29 teams. And in soccer, I always found it strange that you could be subject to someone, hey, I really don't want to be in the English Premier League. My family, I'd rather be in Spain. So that is something that is not a part of North American sports.
So I think that because of that factor, then that's why Manchester United or just any club has to think more about not just the business decision. They have to think of like their public relations. They have to look at like the brand and how they present themselves so that they can globally, so that players can feel like it's a more attractive destination. So this is why the romanticism around the sport, this is where it becomes an advantage because you almost have to like fool the player to make him think.
Manchester's a good place to live.
But do they get fooled? Right?
They do. Angel Di Maria, who's a very famous player, Argentinian, came through the Benfica system in Portugal. His wife was very upset at the living standards in Manchester and basically said, like, all the women are pasty and they drink too much beer. Everyone looks old. It rains every day. I hate it here. And he got, like, he was almost, like, outcast from the team because of this.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
I had some of the most fun I've ever had in Manchester.
No, Manchester's a party.
So it's a party.
Yeah.
And it's
They are pale.
So
She wasn't wrong there.
my answer to that is everyone is the same color when the lights are out.
Hey.
I
Nothing but ankles and elbows.
I just when
I don't
you're
even know what I'm squeezing over
when
here.
you're at a bar in
You
Manchester
did meet your whole family in the strip club.
and the lights are out.
That's one of those like
We're all the same height.
We're all the
laying
same
down.
height laying down.
horizontally.
Yeah, dude.
Probably
By the way, I use that every day. I always like dating taller women for that reason. Because I said, let's test my hypothesis.
This kid's on, volleyball, OK Cupid or something.